So now I have two 16-bit JRPGs running at once with the start of Phantasy Star 2. If anyone remembers, the original Phantasy Star I played for the first time for the show as part of my first 2 episodes, so I thought now was a good time to try the sequel. This is played on the Sega Mega Drive Classics on PS4, which isn't relevant this episode, but will be later. This will take less episodes to cover than Final Fantasy IV though. I have no rare drops to farm or bestiary to complete, just collecting every treasure and level all permanent party members up to their highest levels. If we leave the title screen hanging, we get a bit of backstory. This game is set 1,000 years after the first Phantasy Star. We can tell things have changed right away when we see the former desert planet Motavia is now covered in green. All that quicksand with the antlion pits, gone. You'll also notice the shortening of names to 4 characters, Motavia to Mota and Algol to Algo. I believe this is for space reasons and not an actual change of name in the lore. After Alice and crew killed Lassic and defeated Dark Falz, things got peaceful. Then sometime later, a giant computer named Mother Brain was made to further the Algol system's development, explaining Motavia's terraforming. But in the centuries of peace, with Mother Brain running everything, the people of Algol have become soft, just in time for evil to threaten it again. On starting a new game, I have to name the main character. Thankfully, unlike the last Mega Drive RPG I covered, this guy has a name. It's Rolf. Every night, Rolf has nightmares of Alice's battle with Dark Falz from the end of the first game. As Alice fights, he wakes up. He's an agent working in Paseo, the capital of Motavia. He has no time to worry about dreams while the Mother Brain has control over the entire system. After waking himself up, Rolf automatically walks to the central tower in the middle of town. His boss, an aged Simmons from Yo Video Games, greets Rolf by telling him he's been working with them for 2 years now. He has the hardest job Rolf will ever have from him. As commander of the planet, he has to promote Mother Brain's plans. He thought Mother Brain was perfect at her job, but there's just so many monsters running around the planet that he's not sure. He wants Rolf to go behind the Mother Brain's back and investigate why the monsters are born and how to get their population under control. I have to go to the Biosystems lab and get the recorder so we can look through the data and find out why it's even pumping out monsters in the first place. Rolf returns home to pack for the trip and tells Ney he has to leave. Ney is a half-human, half-bio-monster who has been living with Rolf for the last 7 months. When they first met, she still resembled a child and he took on an older brother role to her. Thanks to her biomonster DNA, she ages much quicker and is now an adult, capable of taking care of herself while Rolf is gone. But Ney doesn't want to just wait at home and worry about Rolf, so she's going with him and he has no say in the matter. So yeah, Paseo. This was the first time we entered on Motavia in the first game, by flying from the Palma spaceport. It's where the governor of the planet was under the influence of Dark Falz and where the final battle took place. This is the only returning Motavian town from the first game. The others are either long since gone or just not important enough to appear in game. We learn a couple things talking to NPCs. There's this guy Darum who has control of the North Bridge and robs people who pass by. One guy straight up lies to me and implies this game has weapon degradation. There's no such thing. Another explains how reviving dead party members works lore-wise. You have to pay to get their bodies cloned with all the memories of the original. I start with 200 Meseta and enter the weapon shop in the northeast corner of town. I spend 160 of it buying a pair of steel bars for Ney to equip on both hands. Giving her 2 steel bars is a 3 times increase over her normal attack start level 1. I leave town and it's time for a little grind. In the transition from first game to second, we can now have more than 1 enemy on screen, not to mention the party also being on screen. This means we can also have more than 1 enemy of different types in the same battle. In exchange, we lost unique backgrounds depending on where the fight takes place, instead they're all on this blue grid. It takes me a bit to realise what's going on with the battle system. Selecting fight has an auto battle that lasts a few turns where each party member uses a command set for them. This means I don't notice that Ney is set to defend at first and only Rolf is attacking. Nothing much to say about the enemies for now. Poisoner and Bee are very basic. Unlike the version of FF4 I'm playing, this game doesn't have a bestiary, so I don't have to track down one of every enemy. I really should have gone to the hospital to heal after just 1 fight, because my second fight against Fire Ant has me ambushed and Rolf reduced to 5 HP. I finally use the strategy option and find that Rolf starts with a technique, Foy. I still don't realise Ney isn't set to fight though. Foy costs 2 TP and does between 12 and 9 damage. Will very quickly become useless, but right now it kills these guys in 1 hit. Thanks to this, Rolf just barely survives the fight. Ney reaches level 2 from it. I guess due to her biomonster DNA, she requires about half the XP to level up than anyone else, so eventually she'll always be several levels ahead. I guess if that DNA makes her develop faster when it comes to aging, it would also make sense that it accelerates her development in other areas like combat skill too. I never thought about it that way until I stopped to write this script. This time I actually used that hospital. It doesn't cost much for a full heal right now, so I don't know why I was hesitant. Next new enemy is a mosquito. 4 XP from 1 fight is just painful. That's the downside with these fancy new animations that weren't in the original. It makes everything go slower. After a couple of fights, Ney reaches level 3. Now I have over 100 Meseta, I can buy a knife for Rolf. This video, following 2 back-to-back Yu-Gi-Oh videos, throws me off when they abbreviate Meseta to MST. I read it as having 113 mystical space typhoons. That's not legal. It may look like I fucked up buying a knife when Rolf already has one equipped, but like Ney, he can hold 2. Rolf does have access to weapons that require both hands, but daggers and knives he can have one in each. The upside to holding 2 weapons is that character can attack twice in a turn. With bigger weapons or a shield, you're sacrificing a second attack for either a higher attack or defense stat. My first fight after going back outside gets Rolf to level 2. I just want to add, writing this I've learned I can't fucking spell Rolf. Rolled every time. During this time, I finally noticed Ney hasn't been attacking, and changed her default command to attack. A few fights later, Ney reaches level 4. The armour shop is in the southeast corner of town. 120 Mesetas gets me some headgear for Rolf. It's only 3 more defense, but I'll take whatever increase I can get. From the same fight, Rolf reaches level 3 and Ney reaches level 5. A few minutes later, Ney reaches level 6. A few more minutes later, Rolf reaches level 4 and Ney reaches level 7 in the same fight. At this level, Rolf learns Ryuka. This technique teleports you back to the last town you saved at. You save in the data memory buildings, the one with a floppy disk on the sign. The lore explanation for saving is that you're putting your memories into storage. My next purchase is a 300 Meseta fibre coat for Rolf. I'm now ready to get going, so I enter the tunnel to the north. There's nothing in here, just keep walking north and out the other end. Keep going north across a bridge and slightly west is another tunnel. This is the one blocked off by Darum. Rolf recognises him as a guy who tried to kill Ney 7 months earlier and decides not to go near him. I'd like to point out how cheery and upbeat the world map music is, not what we'd expect for a possible impending end of the world, but considering the Mother Brain has been making everyone soft over centuries by making life so easy, it's almost as if the happy, chill world map theme is part of that, giving you a false sense of security. Nothing's wrong, everything's great. From the tunnel, I go east and south around this forest, across another bridge and further south past another forest to reach a new town. This new town is Arima and is in pretty bad shape. It also seems the town was attacked by bandits, or scoundrels as the game keeps calling them, who caused huge damage with dynamite. One kid says that they're hiding out in a building in Shure. We also learn that Darum is from here and they took his daughter Team, which led to him becoming the way he is now. One old man says the bandits killed all the men and kidnapped all the women. Well, that's total bullshit because he's still alive telling me this and there are women walking all over town. So now that I've found a new town, know the cause behind Darum and know where these bandits are, I'm going home. With every new town you reach on Motavia, there'll be a new party member waiting at Rolf's house to join the party. For the first one of these, we have Rudolf Steiner, a biomonster hunter. Since this game only has space for 4 character names, he'll be going by the nickname Rudo. But apparently, Rolf has such great charisma that all new party members will let him give them a new name. Rudolf can equip guns and never learns any techniques. To make up for this, he excels in most other areas. He has very high defense, the highest HP stat in the game, and can equip some very good guns and heavy armor later on. He's going to be one of my most used party members. Time to get walking back towards Arima. Since Rudolf starts at level 1, I'm hoping to gain some experience for him on the way. I also put him in front to lessen the damage of the other 2 behind him. After this episode I will forget completely that I can remove Rolf from the front. Not that it will ever matter. Once I reach Arima, I keep moving south and then east, then north across this bridge. I start walking back and forth here for fights, as stronger enemies will appear here. Eventually. At first it just keeps giving me the same 4 I've been fighting from the start. During this, Ney reaches level 8 and Rudolf reaches level 2. I backtrack south over the bridge and then get a fight with a new enemy, the Locust. They seem much tougher than all the previous enemies, but they only took 2 hits to kill each. Only 5 XP, but that is more than the previous enemies were giving, now I had 3 party members to share it all between. Eventually Rolf reaches level 5 and learns Gifoy. It's an updated version of Foy that deals between 33 and 46 damage to a single enemy. He also learns Su, which is slightly weaker. The very next fight has Rudolf reach level 3. Soon after, Ney reaches level 9. After what feels like an eternity, I finally get a new enemy, Froggy. Finally, some better XP I'm thinking. Nah, just 5. I know the grind is a common criticism of this game, but what really drove me up the wall more than anything at this point was the sound. Not the music, I like the music, but the sound effects in battle. Here's what a normal turn sounds like in battle. Now imagine that for hours. It's very obnoxious, loud and screechy, and for all my grinding sessions I had to mute the game and put something else on. And normally that's not something I like to do on a first playthrough of anything. I like to take everything in as it comes, so for me to need to tune out the sound so early on is rare. From my normal grinding spot I keep going north, east past more shit, south all the way, east again, and north. Here I get a mosquito pallet swap, Waspy. This is also my first fight to have more than 3 enemies. You can tell the game can be stingy with XP when I'm seeing 21 and thinking, whoa. That experience is enough to get Nate to level 10 and Rudolph to level 4. I decide to make this part my new grinding spot. Eventually I had the money to go to Arima's weapon shop and buy Rolf the 1200 Meseta sword. A single sword requires both hands, but it's still a massive upgrade over 2 knives. From the new grinding spot I push further north where I can see this building. Here I get a fire ant pallet swap, the armor ant. After returning to town realising I forgot to heal, Rolf reaches level 6. Shortly after, Nate reaches level 11, then Rudolph hits level 5. My next purchase is the 640 Meseta sonic gun for Rudolph. About 10 minutes later, Nate reaches level 12. I build up the money to get Rudolph a second sonic gun, as he can hold 2 smaller guns at once. Like when Rolf had 2 knives, Rudolph can now attack twice in a turn. At this point I realise I haven't saved in an hour and 40 minutes. Not since before I first left the Paseo area. For some reason Arima doesn't have a data memory building, so I have to go back to Paseo to save. I also stop by the item shop to buy some healing items. I buy some Dimates, a second level of healing item, skipping over Monomates. Nearly 10 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 6. 7 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 7. He learns Zan, which deals small damage to a group of enemies. He also learns Hinas, which teleports you out of dungeons. This spell was the final aim of this grinding session. I was also aiming for the new weapons I bought, but they were secondary to learning Hinas. And now, 3 hours after starting the game, I'm ready to enter the game's first dungeon. That building northeast of Arima is Shure, the hideout of the scoundrels. So, last episode in my Final Fantasy IV video, I showed my route through the dungeons, 1 floor at a time, by drawing my route on a map and pointing out the chests I obtained. Then I would recite those treasures along with pointing out level ups and new enemies on the way. Once I reached the next floor, I would repeat the process. Thing is, dungeons in Phantasy Star 2 are much more complex and much more confusing. These are large mazes with a lot of floors, lots of teleporting and many dead ends. So what I'll be doing with this game is showing my route throughout the entire dungeon at once, as I believe that splitting it up might be too difficult to keep track of. Shure is one of the less complex dungeons in the game. On the first floor I go from the entrance and follow the outside of the room all the way around west, north and east, then south a little and west of the opening towards a teleporter in the middle, grabbing a chest on the way. On the second floor I go south and west, then through the door in the southwest corner to find my second chest. I then take the teleporter next to it. On the third floor I go east and north through 2 openings to my third chest. I then backtrack through the teleporter I just used. Back on the second floor I leave that corner and go around the outside to the northeast corner and the teleporter going back up to the third floor. From this one I go southeast a little to reach this big pit. I go south some more to my 4th chest, then back to the middle of the pit to cross a bridge taking me north. Then I follow the path east and south all the way down to a teleporter to the 4th floor. From the teleporter I go slightly north and west to my 5th chest. I then return to the teleporter and go west along the south wall, then north and west some more. Then it's south down this stupid long winding path to reach a room with a body I can inspect for 2 items. Just because it's items, I'll count the corpse as a chest. And I leave the way I came. I didn't draw that part on because it would look awful, but seriously look how much dead space is on the east half of this room that only exists to screw over those without a map. I'll skip a map of the 3rd floor, I just come back the way I came again. At this point all that's left are the 4 chests walled away in rooms on the 1st floor. So on the 2nd, I have to take each downward teleporter in all 4 corners of the 2nd floor to get the 7th through 10th chests. As for what happened on that route, on the 1st floor, Nate reached level 13. The first chest contained 40 Meseta. It took me a while to realise how someone who wasn't using maps and a guide like I was would figure out which teleporters would take them up or down. Ones going up have these flashing arrows pointing outward, while the ones going down are pointing inward. I imagine on an old 1990 TV it might be harder to make them out. All the shit overlaid on the front of the screen probably wouldn't help either. On the 2nd floor is a new enemy, the Spinner. I don't know if it's supposed to be a ghost or a giant amoeba or what. I would also like to add that the miss rate in this game can be insane. Sometimes I feel like it's Xenoblade and I'm taking on the monster 30 levels higher than me with all this missing I'm doing, except these are the weakest enemies in the game. Another new enemy is the Carrier. I think these are supposed to resemble crabs, but I'm not sure. My second chest has a Dimate, which replaces one I had to use earlier thanks to all that missing I was complaining about. On my first quick visit to floor 3 for that one chest, I face an actual amoeba, so one of my guesses as to what the spinners are is shot down. Also, they ambush me. I said ambushes were a pain in Final Fantasy IV, but at least you also could have preemptive strikes to ensure you go first too. In this game, enemies can ambush you, but you cannot ever ambush enemies. This is why all the grinding was so necessary. You could get completely fucked over from a single ambush otherwise. That third chest has headgear inside. My second run through the second floor was uneventful, I only got in a single fight during it. As for my proper walk through the third floor, that pit isn't for show. You can walk into it and fall down to the second floor, so don't. You know how slow you walk in this game? It'd take forever to get back. The fourth chest I get here has 200 Meseta inside. At one point you can see me get confused by a dead end reached through other means, just thinking, who put this here? Why? At this point I had no idea what future dungeons would be like. So as I briefly mentioned earlier, the fourth floor has the bodies of the scoundrels, most likely killed by the sheer amount of biomonsters. I had to get lost a bit on this floor. I wasn't using maps yet, just a written guide. The guide said to go north a little and then west at the opening, but thanks to all those pipes in front of the screen, I missed that opening and spent a while faffing about on the empty northeast side of the floor. When I finally find that opening, I meet a pallet up of the bee, the buzzer. At this point, no enemy is a huge threat to me yet. The fifth chest in that opening contains a silver ribbon. I give it to Nair to equip. Since this game has no shared inventory, each character has 16 item slots each. Any item you pick up automatically goes to the first party member in line with free space. So when I find equipment out in the wild, I'm always messing about with menus to make one character give the item to another and then into a different menu to equip the item. As for the long journey towards the body with items, I meet a pulsar. Okay, what are these? Are they supposed to be some kind of cloud? Because all I see when I look at them is a very red, raw, possibly infected anus. From my next fight, Nair reaches level 14. Soon after, Rudolph reaches level 7. I reach the body in the southwest corner, which I loot for a small key and a letter. The letter is a ransom note for Daram. They have his daughter Team locked in Nido Tower and have given him a month to gather 50,000 Meseta for her return. It explains why Daram turned to mugging, but it's been at least 7 months now, unless his attack on Nair had nothing to do with the ransom and he was trying to kill her just because. With the small key I can now open the chests on the first floor. I could always walk to them before now, but it would be pointless since they'd be locked. And I have to manually use the small key on all 4 of them to unlock them. My 7th chest in the northeast corner has 150 Meseta inside. My 8th chest in the northwest corner has a monomate. The 9th chest in the southwest has some dynamite inside. Finally, the 10th chest has a second stick of dynamite. That's everything obtained in here, now I can leave. On the way back to Paseo to heal and save, Rolf reaches level 8 and learns Res. It's a basic healing spell, always healing 20 HP for free TP. Once I get back to town and use the hospital, I see I built up over 3 grand from that trip through Shure. A few fights after saving, Nair reaches level 15. I start moving south of Shure across another bridge. Going all the way south and then west leads to another building. I hang around outside and do some more grinding in hopes of stronger enemies with better rewards. Somehow I get Rolf killed fighting the same enemies, so I get to use the clone lab for the first time. The price of getting a dead character revived scales based on the character's level. I have the money now to buy Rolf a ceramic knife for 2800 Meseta. Just one of these is still weaker than a single sword, so I have to save for another. On the trek back to the new grinding spot, Rudolph reaches level 8. Soon after, Nair reaches level 16. At this level she learns Anti, which cures poison. I should also mention that she started the game knowing Res, but at this point I haven't even noticed. 20 minutes later, Nair reaches level 17. A couple of fights later, Rolf reaches level 9. Soon I have the money for a second ceramic knife. It might seem like an hour of grinding money for a 4-point increase in attack would be a waste, but remember, with 2 of these equipped, I'm attacking twice now, plus that slight increase in damage over the sword. Nearly 20 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 9. A few minutes after that, Nair reaches level 18. This is a bit OTT for grinding, but I'm also farming money to get Rudolph his own pair of ceramic knives. Although, since he's already dual wielding, I can equip the first of them alongside his remaining gun and get the benefits right away. Nearly 20 minutes after buying Rudolph a knife, Rolf reaches level 10. He learns Gra, which deals damage to all enemies. A little later, Nair reaches level 19. Another few minutes later, I have the money for Rudolph's second ceramic knife. After selling off some old equipment and stocking up on healing items, it's time for the next dungeon. The building southwest of Shure is the Tower of Nido. The first thing I have to do is use some dynamite to blow up this door. Now let's have a look at that map. You're having a laugh. Why is it such a mess? Why is there at least 7 dead ends? All 3 floors look exactly like this too. The 5 chests plus the end goal are nowhere near enough to justify all this. Know how much of this space is pointless? From the entrance I go north through the door I blew up, east to the wall, north some more, then west to a teleporter to the second floor. The majority of this room is dead space intended to waste time. On the second floor I go north for my first chest, then southeast to a teleporter up to the third floor. Here I go north and then west to my second chest, then backtrack all the way to the first floor. Back on the first floor I go west a little, then north to another teleporter going up. Back on floor 2 I go all the way south and then west a little to the third chest. Then backtrack most of the way north, then go west taking a quick detour south for the fourth chest. Then it's south, west and north to 2 teleporters. I take the right one going up to the third floor. Here I just go southeast a little to the 5th and final chest, then back the way I came. I then go through the left teleporter going down to the first floor. Here I go east and then south to another teleporter. On the second floor I go south and then west to one last teleporter to the third floor. Finally I go south, east and then north through an opening to my end goal. First run through the first floor is unremarkable. First visit to the second floor gives me the next level of B, the buzzer. The ceramic knives render them a non-issue. The first chest contains 100 Meseta. The second chest on my first visit to the third floor contains a Trimate, the third level of healing item and the best in the game. Nothing of note happens on my backtrack to the first floor or during my second run through it. On my second run through the second floor, the third chest has 20 Meseta. The fourth contains a Dimate. On my second visit to the third floor, the final chest has 60 Meseta. I've gotta say, so far the encounter rate for this place hasn't been unbearable at all. I'm surprised. Right after I get the next tier of spinner, the Vortex. Still nothing special. Then is the next level of Infectadeus, the Blaster. In the third run through the first floor, I get the next level of Froggy, the Toda. The third run through the second floor has nothing happen. On the third and final visit to the third floor, Rudolph reaches level 10. The end goal I mentioned before is a young girl. It's Team, Darum's daughter. We give her the letter and she's distraught to find that her dad has become a killer and says we have to take her to him. However, since many people hate Darum, his daughter would be an easy target, so the party put a veil over her to hide her identity. And I guess we just shove her into the inventory because she disappears. Oh well, I can teleport out now. Thanks to the guide I was using, this dungeon went by 3 times as fast as Shuri did, despite being much more complex. It helps that I didn't have to backtrack for any chests. We return to the tunnel where Darum is hanging out. Team runs out from the party towards Dad. Not recognising her because of the veil, he demands she hand over her money or die. Instead of trying to say who she is, she just argues back, so Darum kills her. Only after she's sliced across the chest and the veil is removed does she reveal who she is just before she dies. Darum says she won't die alone and he just fucking explodes. Rolf says that this is just one of many tragedies to happen with the world in its current state. This scene is fucking dumb and it fails completely at being sad in any way. So, Team doesn't think to ever take the veil off. I can at least forgive that if she's caught in the moment. But the girl who was first shaking at the mere thought of her dad becoming a bandit, when confronted with that sight for herself, decides not to say, "I'm your daughter," or even just the word dad. She isn't even stunned into silence, which would be more believable, as Darum could see her not reacting to his threat and then attack. Instead, she squares up to him like, "Yeah, fuck you, you're not getting my money, bring it bitch." No wonder she gets cut open. Then Darum just blowing up after 2 seconds of sadness. Was he always carrying a bomb on him just in case he needed to do that? Is this why Team got herself killed? Did terminal stupidity run in the family? This is supposed to be the scene that shows just how badly the world has gone to hell, but all it did was make me laugh. Anyway, after witnessing an entire family Darwin award themselves, I finally have access to the western side of Motavia. I start by going west across a bridge. I head south along the shore and east across a bridge into the first new town in hours, Opta. The first guy I talk to says that the Biosystems lab is south of town. One person says there is a piano teacher in town. People here also fully trust the judgment of the Mother Brain. It seems only people in Paseo are working the truth out. This town has the first data memory building since Paseo, and the first native Motavian we see in the game. There's one guy in the north who thinks I'm lying when I say that the Biosystems lab is creating the monsters. Since I had the money, I buy Ney a pair of ceramic bars. It's the first weapon upgrade since her original weapons I bought in Paseo. It almost doubles her attack stat. From the armor shop, I buy fibre gear for Rolf and a fibre vest for Ney. They're slight increases in defence. Know what's dumb? Every town has a building that teleports you between towns, and I keep walking all the way back to Paseo. Since I've reached a new town, I need to go back to meet my new party member. This time waiting for us in Rolf's house is Amy Sage. She's heard of our quest and wants to help out. She's a doctor, so she'll be our main healer. Like everyone else, she starts at level 1. Right away she already knows Res. Of course she isn't much of a fighter with a very small selection of weak weapons, so I'll be keeping her in the back. She has possibly the lowest HP in the game, starting with just 10, but will end up with the highest TP. So before I get going, I need to gain her some levels so she isn't just dropped by every enemy. Back in Opta, I get her some equipment, some fibre gear and a fibre cape. That weak scalpel is the best weapon I can give her right now. Back outside town, my first fight gets Amy to level 2 and teaches her Shoe, a spell that increases a single party member's defense in battle. Even outside the third town after going through 2 dungeons, I'm still having encounters that give just 4 XP. A few minutes later, Amy reaches level 3. The next fight sees Nea reach level 20 and learn Sack. This technique has a party member kill themselves to fully heal another party member. After getting a bit more money, I buy Rudolph his own fiber gear. A few more minutes and Amy reaches level 4 and learns Deban, a technique that temporarily decreases damage from enemies. 7 more minutes later and Amy reaches level 5, learning Foy and Anti. Going west from the armor shop in town, I can reach a hidden house. Inside is the musician Usthestia. I can have him play any song in the game, like a sound test. I can also have him teach a character how to play piano. I have him teach Rolf since he will always be in the party. No point teaching it to anyone else. For 2000 Meseta, he teaches Rolf the music technique. I'll be needing it later. For some fucked reason, he charges 5000 Meseta if I want him to teach it to women. 10 minutes later, Amy reaches level 6 and learns Gires. For 7 TP, it will heal 60 HP. This technique is always useful. 15 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 11. He learns Gifu, which costs 13 TP and deals between 67 and 92 damage to one enemy. 6 minutes later, Nea reaches level 21. 4 minutes after that, Amy reaches level 7. I think she should be a high enough level to survive the next dungeon. From Opta, I head southwest, crossing a bridge. While continuing west, I get my first new enemy in over an hour, next level up from Locust, the Locusta. Thanks to my levels and equipment, these take 2 hits to kill, and since everyone but Amy can attack twice a turn, I keep going west and south across this bridge by the shore, then it's east across another bridge leading to the Biosystems lab. Like the Tower of Nido, I have to blow up the door using the other stick of dynamite from Shure. Each floor of this dungeon is massive. I go north into this big room and take the west exit. I follow the path all the way west and then all the way north. At the end of that room, I go east, then north to a teleporter to the second floor. For the second floor, I go south, getting my first chest on the way, then west into another room. First I head south for the second chest, then back north and around the western edge of the room. I take it all the way south and then east into the southern room. Continue east around the southern edge into the east room. I go up the far east edge, grabbing the third chest on the way. At the north edge, I go west back into the north room and take another teleporter back down to the first floor. From here, I go back into the eastern room and follow the eastern edge south and then west to a teleporter back to the second floor. Then it's northeast to a teleporter to the third floor. From here, I take a long winding path down to the southern room to grab the fourth chest. I go back to the teleporter and head west from it into the northern room, then west around the northern edge into the western room, then taking that specific path through the room to avoid all the walls. At the southern edge, I go west and north through a door to drop down the pit in the middle. In the basement, I navigate the walls to go to the southeast corner for my 5th chest and then the southwest corner for the 6th chest. I backtrack to where I dropped in and take the northwest path to the 7th chest. From there I take the long path east and around to my end goal for this place. On the first floor I get 2 new enemies, the next level Mosquito, the Stinger. Then there's a new enemy type, the Leecher, which is constantly flashing its inappropriate opening at me. The upside to being an absolute nothing channel that struggles for even 10 views per video is that I can't be demonetized. Getting 51 experience after an hour of half my encounters giving single digits felt very nice. We also get the next level of Poisoner, the Spit Kill. The first chest on the second floor has an antidote, the second chest has a Star Mist. This is a rare item that fully heals the entire party, so it's wasted being used this early in the game. Another completely new enemy type, the Hittail. One thing I quite like in this game is the diverse monster design, especially with their animations. Some later ones are quite gross and they pull it off well. The third chest just has a scalpel in it. My second visits to the first and second floors are completely without incident. On the third floor, Rudolph reaches level 11 after what felt like an eternity. Shortly after is the next level of Amoeba, the Jelly. The fourth chest contains another stick of dynamite. In the long trek around this floor, Amy reaches level 8. Before I can reach the pit to the basement, there's a door in the way. I have to use that new dynamite I just got to blow it open. There's all these glowing red spots on the basement floor. These are damage tiles and unfortunately some of them you have no choice but to walk over. Better hope you have a lot of TP and healing items. Another new enemy type, the Mushroom. This dungeon may have introduced the most new types so far. They're the first enemies in a while that don't just get wiped out first turn. Second turn does them in instead. The 5th chest contains a poison shot that I equip to Amy's free hand. The 6th chest contains an antidote. Next level of B, the Insector. Nea reaches level 22. The 7th chest here contains a Trimate. My end goal was to reach this computer. Inspecting it allows me to take the data recorder. This was the original goal Commander Simmons sent me out to collect at the beginning of the game. No way to leave the basement without teleporting. Hope you have some leftover TP or escape pipes. After returning to Opta to heal, I finally use the teleport station to walk back to Paseo to hand over the recorder. I enter the central tower. The commander tells me he'll compare the recorded data with their own library data. He admits he was another with unflinching faith in the mother brain, but came to realise how it was weakening them over time. The woman running the library says that what caused the accident at the Biosystems lab was an overload of energy that made the animals it was creating rapidly evolve into vicious monsters. That's not all. The energy the Biosystems lab has been using was meant to go to Climatrol, which controls the planet's climate, reducing the amount of rainfall and increasing the planet's temperature. There was one NPC I spoke to back at the start of the game who mentioned Paseo having a lake that dried up. My next objective is to investigate why energy even started being diverted to the Biosystems lab in the first place. She also gives me a key tube, which allows me to enter a tunnel near the lab. But first I go back home to meet my 5th party member, Hugh Thompson. He's a biologist who values all life, including biomonsters, but he will kill them to defend weaker lives that can't defend themselves. However, the party limit is 4 and I'm happy with how it looks right now. I'll put him to use later. Being a biologist, Hugh's gimmick is that he learns many techniques that are especially effective on biomonsters. That doesn't sound like much right now, since every single enemy I've fought so far is a biomonster, but eventually that distinction will matter. Warping back to Opta and setting off towards the Biosystems lab again. To the south is the tunnel I can now pass through. I have to use a key tube to open the door inside. The only way to move here is southeast. This takes me to another tunnel leading to a walled off town like Paseo. This town is Zema. Majority of the people here are old and confused at the mere sight of me. The only actual bit of information I got is that native Motavians love hanging out at the dump at Roron. In the weapon shop, I buy Rolf a very expensive 4400 Meseta laser knife, then a second one has me having spent 90% of my money. It's 16 extra attack though, and I can still attack twice a turn. Since this is a new town, I walk to Paseo and check Rolf's house for a new party member. This time it's Anna Zersky. She's a guardian, someone who tracks down corrupt hunters. Hunters like Rudolph are supposed to kill biomonsters to keep people safe, but some abuse that power to cause harm to the people they're supposed to be protecting, which is where the Guardians come in. She can equip bladed weapons, including some that even Rolf can't. She also has a very small pool of techniques she can learn from leveling. At this point I swap Amy and Rudolph for Hugh and Anna to level them both at once. It's quicker than doing one at a time, and I can't remove Rolf and Nay, so I can only focus on 2 newcomers at once. Hugh starts with no techniques while Anna starts with Foy. I give each of them one of Rolf's old ceramic knives to hold them over until I get something better. I teleport back to Zema and get to grinding outside town. The first fight goes badly as the 2 people I actually want to level up get killed. Maybe it was cocky of me to throw them into fights with current enemies at level 1, but listen, I can't go back to single digit XP from every fight, I just can't. I tried to make one of them a little more durable and spend my remaining money on some Titana gear for Hugh. After 2 fights, both of them reach level 2, with Hugh learning Rimit, which paralyses a single biomonster. I get a third ant enemy, the Pinch Ant, around here. Killing these gets both Hugh and Anna to level 3. Hugh learns Doran, which halves a biomonster's accuracy, and Gen, which is like Foy, but only affects biomonsters, with the upside of it only costing 1 TP. Soon after, both of them reach level 4. I buy Hugh some boots to replace his weaker shoes. Next new enemy here is the Fang, the next level up from the Leecher. Soon after, the 2 reach level 5 together. Hugh learns Sagen, a version of Gen that targets all enemies, and Shinb, which is bugged and does nothing. In one fight, everyone levels at once. Rolf reaches level 12, Nay reaches level 23, and Hugh and Anna reach level 6. Hugh learns Shiza, which halves a biomonster special accuracy, so for techniques. Anna learns Ner, which increases another party member's agility. 6 minutes later, the newcomers stop leveling together when Anna reaches level 7 first. It takes 2 more fights before Hugh also reaches level 7. I buy a Titana gear for Anna, but accidentally buy Hugh a second one. I give Hugh's second one to Rolf since it's an upgrade over his fiber gear. 10 minutes after my previous level up, Anna reaches level 8 and learns Shift, which boosts her own attack stat. 4 minutes later, Hugh also reaches level 8 and learns Res. A minute later I get my closest call yet as I get ambushed and all but Hugh end up killed before I can act. Then the run command refuses to work until Hugh is nearly dead. Eventually I've built up the money to give Anna a laser knife of her own. A few minutes back into grinding gets Nay to level 24. She learns her final technique, Nasak. This one kills the user to fully heal the entire party. 2 minutes later, Anna reaches level 9. 3 minutes after that, Hugh reaches level 9 and learns Foy. 7 minutes later, I have the money to buy Hugh a laser knife to replace the crappy scalpel he joined holding. 10 minutes after buying it, Anna reaches level 10. 6 minutes later, Hugh also reaches level 10. Soon after, I'm buying Anna a second laser knife. A couple minutes after that, Nay reaches level 25. That's halfway to the level cap already. 3 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 13. Next thing to happen is 14 minutes later, when Hugh gets his second laser knife. A few more minutes later I have built up the money to get Rolf a Titanimate. I'm not sure 3700 Meseta for 2 more defense was worth it, but that's that grinding session done, so it's time to move on. I leave Zema and go back through the tunnel. I start by heading east, then south once I reach the wall. I cross a bridge and find a new enemy type, the Fire Eye. These can attack the entire party with one move, but because I'm so powered up, they're not a threat, and I reaches level 11 from this fight. I move south along the shore, following it east. On the way is a Hit-Tail variant, the Centre. This leads to Roron, the dump mentioned earlier. There's 2 rooms on the first floor and I start on the north one. All I can do is take the teleport to the basement. On that floor I go north to my first chest, then east, south and east some more to a teleporter to the second basement. All I can do here is go east to my second chest and I hit a dead end. I go back to the basement and to the left is a second teleporter back to the second basement. Here I go northeast to a teleporter to the third basement. Down here I go south for the third chest and I hit another dead end and have to return to the first floor. Back here I can walk through the door and walk along the outside in the black void to the southern room and take another teleporter to a different part of the basement. From where I start I go east and then south, west and north. I go west again and take the second north path to my fourth chest and then a teleporter to an alternate second basement. Here I go south, getting my fifth chest on the way, and then go west to a teleporter to an alternate third basement. I then go all the way to the south end of this floor to get the sixth chest and talk to the native Mortavians down here. The first chest in the basement is just full of garbage. This is a dump after all. Soon after I get the next tier of spinner enemy, the Whirly. At this point a lone enemy is never going to survive a single turn with 4 party members at level 10 over attacking twice a turn. Even just 3 does the job since I keep forgetting to tell Hugh to stop defending. The second chest on my first visit to the second basement contains a ceramic bar. The second visit to the same basement has a native Mortavian to talk to. Hugh also reaches level 11 on this floor. On the third basement my third chest is more garbage. A Mortavian offers the party cake. If you like the self-preservation that would normally keep you from eating cake from a dump, the entire party loses 10 HP each. Normally I backtrack for the XP, but this time I just cast Hinas to leave. Nothing happens on my second trip through the first floor. On my second trip through the basement we get the third version of Froggy, the Squat. In the fight with them, Nea reaches level 26. The fourth chest on this floor contains a cannon. On the alternative second basement, the fifth chest is just more garbage. On the alternative third basement, another new enemy type, the Rotwood. Normally I remember most of the enemy types I've seen playing this game, but this one I forgot completely. They look strong, but die as easily as the rest. My final chest on this dungeon is just more garbage. That's 2/3 of them. A Mortavian here brags about making a jet scooter out of garbage. Another says he's going to try riding it. That's all I need to do when I warp out. I approach the new jet scooter to find that the Mortavians have left a note saying they don't need it and the first person to find it can take it. This comes at a very good time, since I've exhausted almost all the land available on foot from Paseo. Here's a full map of Mortavia, and here's all the locations I've visited marked. I still have 2 towns left to visit. There's the one southwest of Zema that I could have walked to before, but chose not to. Then there's the one south of Arima that is impossible to reach without the jet scooter. And for some dumbass reason I didn't use a jet scooter to reach the former. I parked it between Zema and Roron and walked it there. This town is Kueri. Everyone just talks about the ocean here. I walked back to Paseo to get my new party member from Rolf's house. The new guy is Josh Kane, and I have no idea what kind of accent they're trying to convey here. Kane's like you, except his specialty is fighting machines and not biomonsters, and since I haven't faced a single machine enemy yet, I'm leaving him in the house to languish. I wasn't expecting to be covering 2 16-bit RPGs with a party member named Kane at the same time. It is strange that Kane is the only character who goes by his surname. Makes sense, who the hell is still going around in the far future on a dying world with a name like fucking Josh? I walk back to Kueri and enter the house at the southern edge of town. The guy inside is trying to make a new kind of gum that allows one to breathe underwater. But he needs Marijuana leaves for it. The tree those leaves come from only grows on a mountain on a single island. We need this to continue, but that's for next episode. Outside town I get my first Wolfang enemy and kill it quickly. The jet scooter will follow you around the world and spawn as close to the last area you exit from as possible. You can still get random encounters on the jet scooter, as seen when this reptile attacks me. It's the first lone enemy in the wild to take more than a single turn to kill thanks to high defense. I go directly west and get off on the southeast side of the continent. Now I just have to keep moving northwest across a few bridges. On the way I meet Headrot, a carrier with a mushroom growing out of its head. These guys are an actual challenge, capable of dealing about 20 damage. They even kill Nea and Rolf before the battle is finished, and with Rolf gone, so is my only guy who can walk back to town. What I decide is to brute force my way to the final town, running from every fight. That strategy gets Anna killed too, but Hugh makes it to Piata, the last town to visit on Mortavia. What we learn is that although Palma and Desiree still exist, and Mortavia's population of Palma migrants has overtaken the native Mortavians, space travel has been banned and the spaceports on Mortavia have been removed. Most likely another Mother Brain influenced decision, cut off the 3 planets from each other to prevent help. Also, like how Mortavia has been shortened to Mota, Palma and Desiree have been shortened to the 4-character Palm and Dezo. Once everyone is cloned, I spend 6200 Meseta on 2 laser bars for Nea. They're a good upgrade. Another thing we learn is that 10 years ago, while space travel was still allowed, a flight from Palma to Motavia ended badly and many passengers were killed. And an old man says he recognises Rolf's name from that flight list, something to come back to in a later episode. Time to walk back to Paseo to meet my final party member. This time it's Cher Gold, a thief. She's only coming along because she's a thrill seeker and there may be some good shit to steal. Being a thief works differently in this game than you'd expect. You can't steal from enemies as there is no steal command, and Cher doesn't have a single technique to herself, it's all things other characters can learn. How her thievery works will be explained next episode. But for now, the rest of this video will cover my final hour of grinding. I do it outside of Piata since that's where the strongest enemies are right now. Head rots are still tough though. This particular fight gets Anna to level 12. Ao here is a Terrakite, a reptile variant. 2 minutes later, Hugh reaches level 12 and learns Gifoy. I walk to Kueri and buy Ney a 4200 Meseta pair of knife boots. Back outside Piata is the third version of Locust, the Fanbite. Ney reaches level 27 after another 10 minutes. 5 minutes after that, Rolf reaches level 14. He learns Nafoi, which deals between 109 and 149 damage but costs 14 DP. I walk back to Kueri and buy a 5400 titanium chest for Rolf, it gives him 13 more defense. 10 minutes after Rolf's level up, Anna reaches level 13. Back to Kueri to buy Hugh's titanium chest. 10 minutes after Anna's level up, Hugh also reaches level 13, and 6 minutes after that, Ney reaches level 28. Eventually I have the 6700 Meseta to walk to Kueri and buy Anna a laser slasher. Slashers can hit entire groups of enemies with one attack, and she can equip 2, so they're very useful. I then return to Paseo to swap Hugh out for Cher. I need her to reach level 10 for something, but that's for next episode as this is where I'm leaving it for now. While I am getting enjoyment from the game so far, I must admit it is a bit of a slog. Fights are very slow and dungeons are a chore even with a map and guide telling me where to go. Plus there's a lot of grinding required to buy basically anything new. It also doesn't help that the one moment of story there is, I found laughable. I must say that right now, I'm preferring the first game. But I'm still getting enjoyment and there's still 2 more episodes worth of this game to go, so we'll see how it goes. To close out this episode, we're back to Phantasy Star 2. As I said last episode, we're starting this one with me grinding Cher up to level 10 before I move on with the plot. I get teleporting straight to Piata to grind outside. While I'm there I decide to armour her up so she has slightly less of a chance to die in one hit, being level 1 and all. Or I would if I could afford any of this. Can't be asked to teleport somewhere else so she'll just have to deal. Then she dies in the first fight. How could I have known that would happen? After I revive her, I win the next fight and reach level 2. The very next fight is against 3 of those head rot that killed her last time, but she survives and the experience boosts her up to level 5. 2 fights later she then reaches level 6 and learns Ryuka. Another 2 fights later she reaches level 7. I teleport to Zema to buy her a laser knife. Yet again, 2 fights is all it takes to get her to level 8. Things slow down a little after this, not just for the increase in XP requirements but for not getting the fights that give more of it. Now she can easily survive 3 head rots, I don't encounter many of them anymore. After nearly 10 minutes, Anna reaches level 14 and Cher reaches level 9 and learns Hinas. 4 minutes later, I buy her another laser knife, but when I leave the shop, Cher is gone. I have to return to Rolf's house to get her back. She says she went for a walk, but actually she stole from that shop. In this case it was a fire staff. This is something she can do at random. It's also the reason I'm grinding her to level 10, since what I want her to steal requires that level. Back to grinding. Rolf reaches level 15 and Ney reaches level 29. A minute and a half later, Cher reaches level 10. Now for what I needed her for. I return to the central tower in Paseo and constantly enter the item storage room until Cher disappears. It takes a couple minutes of repeating this, but when she does and I get her back, she stole a Visiphone. This is very useful because now I can save anywhere instead of just at a data memory building. It is a pain I had to go to this effort when the first game let you save anywhere from the beginning though. That was a nice 40 minutes for Cher, but now I'm benching her for Rudolph. Cher just isn't that useful in battle, I'm afraid. I also take the chance to give Amy the fire staff Cher stole before benching her too to keep Anna. No level ups after 13 minutes, but I did build up the money to buy Rudolph a laser shot from Kueri. 2 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 12. 5 minutes later, I buy a second laser slasher for Anna. At this point, just hoping I get head rots is making this go too slowly, so I go to my jet scooter. As I set off, I get my first new enemy of the episode, a pug kill. Just heading west from Kueri takes me to this island with a huge mountain on it. This is Uzo Island. If you remember the first game, Uzo was a town on Motavia. It was south of Paseo and we'd land here in Villavino after the spaceports were closed. Now the town is gone and all that remains is this mountain. Last episode there was a guy in Kuweri who wanted Maruera leaves to make a gum that let people breathe underwater. I need this to be able to reach Climatrol and the leaves can only be found here. There's one slight issue though. This place is a big maze and of these 7 Maruera trees at the top, only one of them will give me the leaves. But first I'm going to hang out at the entrance and use the stronger enemies for grinding. Head rots are still here and I get a stronger variant of the Wolfang, the Burn Wolf. Also a new variant of the Hit Tail, the Scaly. I also get better money here, and it's not long before I have these 6300 Meseta to buy Anna a titanium cape from Kuweri. At this point I finally decide to get going through the island to continue the plot. My first step is to go east and up the stairs, then west and up the next 2 sets of stairs, west and down the stairs, west and up the stairs, all the way west and down again, then east and down 2 more sets, east some more and upstairs, then west to a cave entrance I've marked A. This puts me out of the entrance I've marked B. From here I go east, upstairs, east again, upstairs, east and upstairs once more, then east and down again to the entrance marked C. I come out the entrance marked D where I go west and up the stairs to the tree that gets me leaves. Just look at all that wasted space. If I wasn't already using a guide to make sure I got every treasure, then I would have absolutely given in and used one for this place at least. My next new enemy here is an entirely new type, the Catman. A few minutes later is the next level up from Fire Eye, the Glow Stick. Killing these gets Ney to level 30. 4 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 13. That's all that happens here as a minute later I reach the correct tree and grab the Maruera leaves. Didn't sound like long, but I just cut down 12 minutes for you. Instead of teleporting out, I decide to walk back for the money and XP. I get another new enemy type on the way out, the Blockhead. Nearly 5 minutes later, Anna reaches level 15. That's all before I get back out. I return to Kuweri and hand over the leaf and he makes me the Maruera gum, which allows my party to breathe underwater. With this, I can now finally reach Climatrol and find out why energy was being diverted from it to the Biosystems lab. I teleport to Piata to buy a ceramic chest for Rolf. I'm not sure why ceramic is stronger than titanium, but before I head to Climatrol I want to upgrade my equipment more, so I get back to grinding at Uzo. It's at this point I remember that the PS4 collection I'm playing this on has a fast forward function. I'm always iffy on using stuff like this, but it's not like I'm playing an emulator and using it to cheat. This function is built into the disc I'm playing this on. Plus, when it comes to large stretches of grinding, I have my own sanity to consider too. Let's just say that my final grind next episode was soul crushing enough that I can't bear the thought of doing it without fast forward. I'll only be using this for grinding and random encounters though, not for anything new. I just wish I remembered this last episode. I could have cut down the grinding time by an hour or 2. Eventually I have the money to buy Anna a ceramic cape. Not long after I return, Rolf reaches level 16 and learns Gizan, a version of Zan that targets a group of enemies. A few fights later, Rudolph reaches level 14, and then Ney reaches level 31 in the very next fight. Back to Piata to buy Rolf a laser sword, sacrificing an extra attack each turn, but it's more powerful than 2 laser knives. Then after selling some stuff off, I buy Ney a jewel ribbon. 15 minutes after that, I have the 20 grand to buy Rudolph a laser cannon, the 4th strongest cannon in the game. A couple minutes after I get back, Anna reaches level 16 and learns Fanby. This has her deal damage and then heal herself for that same amount of damage. 3 minutes later, Ney reaches level 32. Next fight has Rudolph reach level 15. Soon after I had the money to buy Rudolph a ceramic armour and Anna a silver crown. Back out at sea, I get a new variant of the Pug Kill, the Pug Brat. It's time to check out Climatrol now. I keep going south of Uzo Island until I see this one whirlpool. Before I can get there, I have to go through this underwater floor first. From the stairs I go west and south the first chance I get. I keep going west and then follow the path all the way to the north end. Once I reach it, I take the next fork southwest to the next room. As you might guess, all these red tiles on the floor are damage tiles, and many of them I have no choice but to walk over, and thanks to their size I have to take 2 steps on each of them. While down here I get a new amoeba variant, the Slug Mess. These can be a pain because if you leave one alive at the end of the turn, they can then spawn 2 more. Nothing else happens and I reach those stairs to enter Climatrol proper. The first floor is simple, I go south, west, south and west to reach floor 2. There I just go east a little to floor 3. I go south my first chest, then north to floor 4. Another small one, I go south to floor 5, grabbing my second chest on the way. I start off this floor in the centre. I go north all the way east and north again to floor 6. From there I go south and west to get to floor 7. I go south to a chest, then south some more and east to go back down to floor 6. I go all the way south, then west, north and east back up to floor 7. Here I can only go to floor 8. Then it's all the way east back down to floor 7. I head east and south to my 4th chest, then backtrack and go west to floor 6 again. I walk east along the edge of the pit to my 5th chest, then take the teleporter I passed on the way back to floor 7. Here I take a few steps south to floor 6 again. I go southeast, which takes me back to floor 5. I return to the centre of the room and then go all the way southwest and back to floor 6, then northeast to get back to floor 7. I go west to grab my 6th chest and go back the way I came. Back on floor 6 I go south, back down to floor 5. I head back to the middle, enter the northwest area and go north to take the teleporter in the middle of the northern wall to floor 6, then 2 steps east to floor 7. I head south, east and south at the fork to go back to floor 6. I go west for the 7th and final chest, then back to where I started and east and south back to floor 7. All the way west, back onto floor 8. Here I go east, take the second path to the north going further east, then northeast some more to my target. This mid-game dungeon took more images to explain than the final dungeon of Final Fantasy IV. My first encounter here is against the next level of infected Anus, the Blastoid. The first chest is a jewel ribbon. Don't step into the hole in the middle or it will drop you down to floor 2. I get the next level of blockhead on my way back, the Firia. The second chest contains a fibre vest. I get a new Wolffang variant, the Flare Wolf. The third chest in this place is just some sandals. Next new enemy is a Fire Eye variant, the Forest. Fourth chest gets me a laser bar. Fifth chest is knife boots. I give them to Anna as an upgrade over her normal boots. Rolf reaches level 17 when I get lost choosing the wrong teleporter when I was supposed to be going to the southwest corner of floor 5. The sixth chest is a ceramic bar. This is the point where I decide to leave to heal and come back. Thing is, when I come back, I always have to deal with that underwater part with the damage tiles every time. The final chest in this place is a silver ribbon. A fight later, Nea reaches level 33. During the final step of this dungeon, I get a new Catman variant, the Cat Eye. At the end of all this, in the middle of floor 8, is a woman who looks a lot like Nea. This is Nea First, born 2 years ago as a result of experiments combining human and animal parts. She escaped and stole the DNA data from the Biosystems lab. She's the reason for the increase in biomonsters, as revenge on those who played with her life. However, she wasn't the only Nea. Our Nea was originally just part of Nea First, but didn't hate humans and rebelled against Nea First, separating herself from her. Nea can't allow Nea First to continue causing destruction and the two fight one-on-one, but it doesn't go well as Nea First kills Nea in one blow. Nea begs Rolf not to allow humans to make the same mistakes they made when they created her, and she dies. Rolf swears to avenge her and only now are we actually taking on the game's first boss. Part of what makes Nea First tricky is that we're down to 3 party members from the beginning, and since I left Amy at home, Rolf is the only one that can heal, so I die the first time, but thanks to my fantastic Visiphone, I'd saved right in front of her. So let's try this again. Nea First has 1100 HP and a higher attack stat than anything I've faced so far, and of course the footage of my first turn corrupted in the most important fight this episode. I simply have Anna and Rudolph attack while Rolf casts Nathoi. Everyone is stocked with Trimates to heal when needed. She has 2 attacks, a sort of lightsaber looking thing that hits one character, and a full party claw attack. In the end, Anna gets the final blow in. Rolf tries to wake Nea up, but she's too dead for it to work. I should also say that if you grind enough and kill Nea First as Nea, then Nea will still die. Nea's part of Nea First, so killing Nea First kills Nea too. Climatrol's weather control system starts freaking out. Without Nea First controlling it, all the diverted energy is returning at once. Water starts spraying and filling up the dried lake once again. The place starts exploding and the desert-looking areas we've been seeing below the towns are already filled up with water. The party quickly return to Paseo. They first visit the clone labs to try and revive Nea. We get a mistranslation here, or it was cut for space, so I have to explain. She says Nea can't be revived because she can't clone people who aren't fully human. Obviously that doesn't make sense because she was able to clone her before this. The actual reason is that with Climatrol destroyed and no longer powering the Biosystems lab, plus Nea First's death, she no longer has access to the DNA pattern to Nea's non-human parts, making it impossible to reconstruct her. She recommends the party bury Nea in a plateau north of Paseo and gives the incredibly insulting "your friend led a full life." She was 1 year old. So, Nea's death. I don't know when I first heard of it, but I'd known about this for at least 13 years. For over a decade before I played this game, it was the only plot point I knew about. It's often brought up as the 16-bit era's equivalent to a certain PS1 Final Fantasy death. You know, where Amarant's freakish proportions for a human cause him circulatory issues leading to a death at the young age of 26. That one. But I've got to say, this got no reaction from me. It's possible knowing it over a decade in advance is part of the reason, but there's also the fact that there just wasn't much to Nea's character. The moment she faces Nea First and dies is only the second time she speaks in the entire game. But this isn't an issue with just Nea, there's barely anything to every party member, which is fine considering the time this game was released. If this was someone's first RPG, I can easily see someone getting attached to Nea and being gutted when she dies. Without a guide and just blindly feeling their way around the world, they'd have spent much longer with her than I did in this playthrough. I return to the central tower where things aren't exactly improving. The entire rain supply has been pumped into the lake and it's overflowing. If left, all of Motavia will be flooded. We go back to speak with the commander. He says the only way to deal with this is to open the dams. Rolf volunteers, but there's another issue. The government back on Palma are scapegoating us as the reason Mother Brienne is trying to kill everyone. Palma's security system is now trying to hunt the party down. Rolf says they'll find him sooner or later, even if he tries hiding, so there's nothing to lose trying to open the dams. I check out the library and read its entry on the dams. There are rivers running from the lake in all 4 cardinal directions with dams built between them. To actually get into the dams, I need a coloured keycard that matches that dam's colour. The cards are in a control tower, but its location is a secret. But first, we need someone to take Nay's place in the party. Kain is finally going to see some use, after being the only party member unused and still at level 1. I teleport to Piata to get him equipped. I get him some ceramic armour and a laser shot, then over to Zemma to get him a Titanimet. Now to grind him up. Outside Zemma we can now see the overflowing lake surrounding us. Now that the Biosystems lab is no longer being powered, biomonsters are gone from the planet, but now the Palman government are after me. This means all enemies on Motavia are now machines, starting with this metal man. This is where Kain finally gets to shine. The enemies he was designed to fight will actually appear now. He starts with 2 techniques. Foy is not new to us, but Froza halves a machine's physical accuracy. From this one fight, Kain goes from level 1 to level 5. He learns Aegir at level 5, which damages a group of machines. Next fight is another new enemy, Mazgamma. Kain reaches level 6 from this fight. Next fight gets into level 7 and teaches him Gaj, which deals damage to a single machine. More new enemies in the fight after, Whistle. Kain reaches level 8 from them. Another new enemy, Mecho Man from the next fight. Rudolph reaches level 16. Next fight, Kain reaches level 9 and learns Conte, which halves a machine's special accuracy. Next fight gives me Polesi, another new machine. 3 fights later, Kain learns Zan and Gigaj, a stronger version of Gaj. A few minutes later, he reaches level 11. Next fight sees Anna reach level 17. Not long after, Kain reaches level 12. Time to find that control tower. I go up to Piata. At the north end of town, I can cross this road over to the west side and then move south. Once I hit a wall, I go west some more to find 3 towers. I can enter the middle one, which turns out to be the control tower. Well, this is only 2 floors, so it shouldn't be that bad. Now let's have a look at... Fucking hell. What's all this shit? 1, 2, I count 69 teleporters on this floor. Look, I know big confusing maps with lots of dead ends was standard for a lot of JRPGs of the time, but look at this room. This could only have been made out of hatred. So to start, I go all the way north around the walls in the middle. I then take the 4th teleporter from the left corner to floor 2. I go all the way south and then west to teleport back to floor 1. Then it's south a few steps back to floor 2, then east 2 steps to floor 1, then east some more to floor 2, then east again to floor 1, then north, east, skipping 1 and south to floor 2. East again to floor 1, north to floor 2 again, then it's east and north to interact with this object to get those keycards. That's 75% of a dungeon that's just wasted space. The entire east half is just a dead end. My first enemy here is a new type, the Wireface. There's also a pallet swap of the Whistle, the Informer. And that's literally it until I reach the organ in the middle of floor 2. This is what I needed the music technique I learned last episode for. Hope you didn't teach it to Nay or you're paying for it again. Actually, I wonder if that's the gameplay reason Ustvestia charges women more to learn music, a way to discourage the player from teaching it to Nay without giving away her death? Playing the organ opens a door to the north, which allows me to grab the 4 keycards to the dams, red, green, yellow and blue. The only thing is that they each take up a separate space in my limited inventory. On the way out, Kain reaches level 13 and learns Sag, which damages all machines in battle. Inspecting the organ again will allow me to warp out. Now I have the keycards, it's time to deal with these dams. South of Zemma, I ride the jet scooter up the canal into the red dam. North from the entrance is a door that requires the red card to open. Once through the door, I go northwest to go to the basement. Then it's all the way south and northwest back to floor 1. Then it's southeast up to floor 2. It leads to a small room with my first chest. I then go back to floor 1. I go to the southwest corner back into the basement. I go north and then east back to floor 1, then west to the northwest corner and up to floor 2 again. I go south and east around this pit, then east some more through the long tunnel avoiding more pits. I go south to grab the second chest and then go all the way east to go back down to floor 1. Then it's south back to the basement. I go northwest to the third and final chest, then backtrack and follow the long path west, north and east back to floor 1. Then south, west and south again back to floor 2. Finally, I just go west to my end goal. In the basement I get a new enemy type, the Eyesore. Even with Rolf and Nana's usefulness being lessened by the machine's high defences, I'm still not struggling with them. The first chest is a fire slasher that goes to Anna. Next new enemy is the Sonomech. I don't even need Kane's techniques right now, Rudolph and Kane's cannons deal enough damage to take them out alone. I didn't realise this was new, which is why I'm speeding through it, but I get Wire Head, next level up from Wire Face. The second chest is a Fire Staff. Last chest in here is a Sword of Anger, which replaces Rolf's Laser Sword. Right after, Kane reaches level 14 and learns Gra. A new variant of the Polezi shows up, the Polezi Axe. My aim was to reach this slot for the red card that opens the red dam and releases the water. That's all, so I warp out. After healing, I warp to Kuweri to get my jet scooter on the west side of the planet. Just before getting on it, Rudolph reaches level 17, and in the next fight, Rolf reaches level 18. Going north from Kuweri, I reach the canal leading into the Yellow Dam. Just east of the entrance is a door requiring the yellow card. This one's more complex, being one floor bigger than the red dam. After going through the door, I go all the way to the east end and take the northern teleporter out to floor 2. I go west, north to a fork, and all the way west to floor 3. Up there I grab the first chest and backtrack the way I came to floor 1. I take a few steps south back to floor 2. I go south for the second chest, then west and north back to floor 1. I then go west, back to floor 2 again. Then it's northwest up to floor 3. Then it's south to reach floor 4 for the first time. I make my way out of this winding path, I ignore the teleporter to the south first and go north and east to my third chest. I then take that teleporter down to floor 3. Here I grab my fourth chest and return the way I came to floor 4. I then go east and take the first teleporter I see back to floor 3. Once again I grab my fifth and final chest here and return to floor 4. I go all the way east and then north. I go west, ignoring the first winding path and entering the one in the middle. I follow that path all the way back to floor 3. This puts me right in front of the card slot. The first chest gets me a Kristanish, some good armour for Rudolph. My next fight is against the Mezgamma's stronger cousin, the Furgamma. The second chest is an escape pipe. Considering I've only been using techniques to leave dungeons this episode, I forgot these even existed. Just as I reach floor 4 for the first time, Kane reaches level 15. I also get a new enemy type up here, the Cooley 61. Also another new one I unknowingly fast forwarded through, Twigman, a variant of Metal Man. My third chest gets me an Amber Robe. It's exclusive to Hugh and can cast res when used as an item. Except Hugh doesn't get used once this episode, or, spoiler, ever again until it's time to max out everyone's levels. The fourth chest is a crystal cape I give to Anna. The final chest is a crystal chest for Rolf. Anna reaches level 18 as I'm making my way through the final winding path. I reach the card slot and place the yellow card inside. That's half the dam's opened, time to leave. On the eastern side of the continent is the canal to the blue dam. Like the others, I need to use the blue card to get in. This one also adds another floor to the mix, meaning I now have 5 floors to deal with. After going through the door, I go south and east to floor 2. This takes me to my first chest and I go back to floor 1 the way I came. I go all the way northwest to go back to floor 2, then south and east to go to floor 3. I go southwest and all the way north to the corner, down to floor 2. I go southwest to my second chest and back to floor 3 the way I came. I go southwest a little to go up to floor 4, then a few steps east takes me to floor 5. I go southeast back to floor 4, grabbing my third chest on the way. I go east to open my fourth chest and drop down one of the pits to floor 3. It has to be in either the middle or the 2 right side ones, otherwise you'll land in the wrong spot and have to do it again. In the area I land in, I grab my 5th chest and go south to floor 2. I then go all the way west to get back to floor 1. I go north to get out of this enclosed area, then south for a while, then east and south some more back to floor 2. I go northeast to floor 3. I grab my 6th chest in here and backtrack to floor 2. I go west and north back up to floor 3. Then it's south back up to floor 4 again. Southwest gets me the 7th chest, then I go all the way east and north to get back up to floor 5. But then it's south, west and south back to floor 4. I then go south down to floor 3. I grab my 8th and final chest and backtrack to floor 4. I go west and back up to floor 5. I go north and east and drop down the pit. This puts me on a platform with this place's card slot. This place took one more image to explain than Climber Troll did. First chest is an antidote. Kane reaches level 16 on floor 1. These machines just blend together now, so of course I missed that I faced my first Atmeg here. The second chest is a Cressa gear, a good helmet for Rudolph. Another new enemy type here, the Van. The third chest has a Storm gear. Only Kane can equip this and it lets him have an unlimited free use Gizan when it's used as an item. The fourth chest is a colour scarf for Anna. It lets her use Sane when used as an item. Fifth chest is a Snow Crown. Only Amy can equip it and it lets her use Deban when used as an item. A couple floors later, Rudolph reaches level 18. Next fight has Rolf reach level 19. Sixth chest gets me a Wind Scarf. Only Cher can equip this and it lets her use Zan when using it as an item. Seventh chest is a Trimate. Not quite exclusive equipment like I've been getting the last few times, but these are always useful. Also on this floor is a new Wireface variant I speed through, the Podhead. The final item is a Star Mist, and then I reach that card slot and use the blue card to open this dam too. Just one left. I stop by home just to give Amy and Cher the Snow Crown and Windscarf before I forget. The final dam, the green dam, is reached from the north end of the continent. As usual, I open the door with the green card. This place has only 2 floors, but it's the most complicated of the lot. I start by going south to floor 2, then north and west to floor 1, then west to floor 2. I grab my first chest and go northwest to floor 1, then east west back to floor 2. I go southwest all the way to the corner and then east back to floor 1. I go northeast and around to my second chest and then back to floor 2 the way I came. I backtrack the way I got here, but just before the teleporter there's this path leading outside the wall that I take. I follow it all the way east to the other side of the room. When I re-enter, I go east some more back to floor 1. I go all the way south my third chest and go back the way I came to floor 2. I go west, south, east past a pair of teleporters and north to my fourth chest. I then take the rightmost teleporter I passed to floor 1. I go all the way north my fifth chest and back the way I came to floor 2. Then a couple steps west to floor 1, then west some more to floor 2, and finally east west some more to the card slot. Not as many steps as the blue dam, but there's many more dead ends to run into. My first chest gets me Truth Sleeves. Only Cher can equip these and they cast res when used as an item. I also get Twig Tall, my third Metal Man. The next level up from Cooley 61 is here, Monster. The second chest gets me a Telepipe. From the same fight, Anna reaches level 19 and Kane reaches level 17, learning Nagaj, a powered up version of Gaj. Soon after is the next Mez Gamma variant, the Kill Gamma. Another new enemy soon after, the Heavy Solid. The third chest is an Aegis, a strong shield. I give it to Kane since Rolf and Rudolph have their hands full with two-handed weapons. The fourth chest is some green sleeves. These cast Shimb when used as an item and can only be equipped by the women. Final chest is another Star Mist. And that's everything before I can insert that green card and shut off the final dam, preventing Motavia from being flooded. However, the second that dam is opened, I get attacked by 3 Army Eye. These are pretty much unkillable, and after a few turns they end the fight by trapping the party in plasma rings. We are suddenly imprisoned in the satellite Gyla for the crime of damaging the mother brain, to be held until our death sentence. I can't fight, but I still have to find my way out. I go north, take the first east, then south, east, north, east, south, west, south, east, north, east and south to the control panel. These glowing tiles are damage tiles, so I have to make sure to heal regularly too. Since I can't fight, I have to run from all enemies, including these new missile variants, the Tracer. Suddenly we hear a huge explosion and feel a massive force moving the satellite. We need to get to the control panel to fix it. On the way I get my next Polezi variant, the Polezis. I reach the control panel, but the screen goes black. Rolf once again has his dream of Alice fighting Dark Falls before he's woken up by Tyler, a space pirate. He left Palmer ages ago to get out from the Mother Brain's rule. He just happened to pass by and save Rolf, the rest of the party are currently being revived. Gyla was set on the crash course to Palmer and the planet was wiped out. I actually found this a bigger blow than Nay's death. We spent so much time in the first game on Palmer, it's where the series' first main character was from, so all those locations like Bortivo where we dug up Hapsby, Biomalay where we took on Lassic, and most importantly, Suelo's house in Kamini where we got all those free heals. If they weren't already long gone in 1,000 years since, they certainly are now. Not to mention that, despite the effort Alice and her group went through to free the Algol system, after she was gone, it all went back to corruption right up to the end anyway. Tyler will drop us off back at Paseo and suggest we should go to Deseris, as he heard there is someone who can do things the Mother Brain can't. Back in Paseo, we return to the central tower to tell Commander Simmons we're doing this. He allows me use of the spaceship on the roof, but warns that we are still wanted fugitives, and that destroying Palmer has shown how desperate the Mother Brain is. However, Deseris is for next episode. I want to prepare a bit first. I replace Kane with Amy and buy her a ceramic cape and a mirror Emil. I then get to grinding. The first fight gets her to level 9 and teaches her Sa, which heals all allies. A few fights later she reaches level 10 and learns Sack. Then level 11 soon after. I decide the best place to grind is in the first room with the green dam since it has the strongest enemies. Rudolph reaches level 19 and Amy reaches level 12 and learns Nasak in the same fight. Then Rolf reaches level 20 and learns Nafu, a stronger Gifu. Next, Amy reaches level 13. 10 minutes later, Amy reaches level 14. This is where I'll be leaving it this episode. I enjoyed this more than last episode, as part 1 felt more like I was just playing setup for the rest of the game, and said setup took forever. Also, there was no dumb story moments like the Durham scene. However, a lot of my complaints still stand. The slow speed and especially the pointlessly huge dungeons designed out of spite. But we'll get my final thoughts on this game next episode, where I revisit Dezoris finally and see what's changed there, as well as finally take on that Mother Brain. And we return to Phantasy Star 2 once again to finally finish it off. Last time we stopped the creation of more biomonsters and reactivated Motavia's climate control, but Nay died. We stopped the planet from flooding, but the Mother Brain destroyed the planet Palmer. We were tipped off by a space pirate about someone on the planet Dezoris being able to help us deal with the Mother Brain, so I'm heading straight there. I use the planet's only remaining spaceship on the roof of Paseo Central Tower to fly to Dezoris. We land in the Skure spaceport. If you remember the first game, Skure was one of only 2 towns on Dezoris, populated by Palman migrants. However, since the first game, the Palmans began mining the area for its Laconian ore. It became the planet's spaceport until a gas leak killed several workers and mutated many animals, leaving the area abandoned. From the spaceship, I go north and west down a chute. I go west and north my first chest, and then south down another chute. I go north to 6 chests, only 3 of which have items, then east and south to a 5th. I then go back to the 2nd floor the way I came. I go north and west all the way to the end and take the chute back to the 3rd floor. I go all the way north and east to a chute back to the 2nd floor. I then go west to an exit to the world map, taking a detour south for the 7th chest. There's still some chests I haven't opened yet, but I'll be taking multiple trips through this place, so I'll get them on my revisits. First new enemy I face here is a Dezo Owl. My second fight with them gets Anna to level 20. The first chest has a magic cap. Equipping this will let me talk to the animals in this place. Only Rolf can equip it and it's the weakest piece of headgear in the game. The 3 chests in the group of 6 on the 3rd floor have a magic cap, which allows me to speak with the native Dezorians, a second magic cap, and 5600 Meseta. I get another new enemy, the Rabbiter. These are cool as hell. They're constantly having to pull their intestines back inside the bodies and they attack you with them. The 5th chest is the Laconian chest, which gives Rolf a 20-point defense boost over the crystal chest. I also fight a Dezowild variant, the Sky Tiara. I get a new machine enemy, the Gunbust. Since Dezoris has both biomonsters and machines, I'm not bringing party members that specialise in just one, which is why my party is who it is. The next chest has 7800 Meseta. I face 2 new enemies here, Rabbit and Oranga. My next fight gets me a variant of the Oranga, the Orangu. The 7th chest is 8600 Meseta. Out on the world map, we can see a part of the giant scar the Palman mining operations have made on Dezoris' surface. I get moving northeast. Eventually I reach my first town on this planet, Aukba. You must make sure you're wearing the magic cap when talking to Dezorians. Wear a magic cap and they'll lie to you and charge you more at shops. Wear neither and you can't understand them at all, meaning you can't use the shops or the hospital. It seems the Dezorians are quite happy the Palmans are no longer destroying their planet. Someone mentions a person hiding on this planet who never ages, and another talks about a beautiful man on the other side of a crevice. Now that I visited here, it's added to my list at the teleport station. I use said station to teleport back to Skure. But you can't teleport from Skure to a town, so you always have to trek through this place if you want to get anywhere, or you'll leave the planet. I go north, take the first west, go south all the way, then east and down a chute. I go north and west to my first chest, and then north and down the first chute I see. I go south, east and north, back up to the 2nd floor. I go north to a fork, then east and north again to my second chest, then east and north again back to the surface. The first chest is 6400 Meseta. Amy reaches level 15 in my first fight after this. She learns Sashu, which raises the entire party's defense, and Nares, which fully heals a party member. The second chest is a pair of Garda boots that I equip to Rolf. Back on the surface, I go northeast. On the way I get a van variant, the Aero Tank. My entire party bar Anna dies before I escape. While trying to survive to the next town, I get my next Oranga variant, the Ox. Eventually, to the far northeast, I reach the town Zosa, so I can finally revive everyone. It turns out the gas leak didn't matter to the Dezorians, as they are unaffected by it. Now that Zosa is on my teleport list, I walk back to Skure. From the exit I last left through, I return to the chest I found the Garda boots, and go south, west and north back to the 3rd floor. I go south, grabbing another chest in here on the way. There's still some more, but we won't be getting those for a long time. All the way south and all the way west back to the 2nd floor. I then go south, back to the surface. The last chest is 15,000 Meseta, then it's back outside again. I head south and then east, meeting my first tracer base on the way. It's a very long trek east, but I finally reach the last town on this planet, Ryuon. It seems Twin Town from the first game is long gone. One guy here says he saw 2 spaceships crash into each other 10 years earlier. Now I have access to all 3 towns and their shops, I can decide on what I want to buy everyone. I've built up a lot of money, so I buy Rudolph a Laconinish for 35,000 Meseta, it's the strongest armour he can wear. I also buy him his own Garda boots for 12,400, it's the strongest piece of footwear in the game for men. I buy Amy a Laconian ML for 12,000, her strongest shield. From the weapon shop I buy Rolf a Laconian sword for 22,000. I then teleport to Zosa for its shops. I buy Anna 2 AC slashers for 24,000 each, wiping out my funds, so I get to farming money outside of Ruon. My first fight gets Rolf to level 21 and Rudolph to level 20. The next fight is new enemy, the Large Miner. A couple fights later, Amy reaches level 16. 8 minutes later, Anna reaches level 21. 2 minutes after this, I had the money to buy Amy her strongest footwear, the Hersa boots. Another 2 minutes later, Amy reaches level 17. 5 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 22 and Rudolph reaches level 21 from the same fight. I teleport to Zosa and buy Anna her strongest footwear, the Shoon boots. About 10 minutes after that, Amy reaches level 18. A couple more minutes later, Anna reaches level 22. 5 minutes after that, I have the 28,000 Meseta to buy Rudolph a Laconigear. 7 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 22. 3 fights later, Rolf reaches level 23. At this point I decide to advance the plot a bit and get looking for the guy Tyler told me about. I teleport to Arkbar and leave town. I head west and south between 2 mountains to reach this massive crevice with stairs leading into it. In here I go west to the pit, don't fall in the pit. I go north around it to a set of stairs going down. I go southwest, all the way west, then south, east, north and east to more stairs going down. There's only one way to go in this section, west and northeast to the stairs going up. Then it's south to some more stairs leading back up to the first floor. I go north, west and south to the stairs taking me back to the surface. Every other route I didn't cover is a dead end. I get an actual returning enemy from the first game, Mastodon. Elephants were strong enemy types in the later Deseris dungeons in the first game. My next fight after this gets Amy to level 19. I also get a new Deso Owl variant, the Owl Talon. That's all before I reach the exit, putting me on the other side of the crevice. Going west a little takes me to a mansion. This is the Esper Mansion. The term Esper was used in the first game, only applied to one person. People at the entrance say they've been waiting for Rolf. A man said he would awaken when Rolf arrives. He's been waking up every 10 years. When the Mother Brain first appeared, he hid himself away on Deseris. These people have been watching over him for generations. I go past the throne here and down the stairs. I talk to the woman on the left to have her wake up the man from his cryosleep. It's a familiar face, Noah from the first game, only now the game is using his Japanese name, Lutz. Lutz already knows Rolf. Remember the spaceship crash 10 years ago that shut down all space travel in the system? The one with Rolf's name on the boarding list? Lutz was the one who saved Rolf from the crash when he was 10 years old. He says he was awoken by Alice's scream, meaning Rolf is Alice Landale's last descendant. He recaps the end of the first game, only now the Dark Force is being localised as Dark Force. He tells Rolf he needs to arm himself for battle and gives us the Aero Prism. This is the item that reveals hidden things and what we used to reveal Lassic's Sky Castle at the top of Baia Malay in the first game. These will reveal the dungeons that allow me to find the 8 pieces of Ney equipment, the strongest equipment in the game. Once I get them, he'll tell us about the enemy's plans. I grab the Aero Prism from the chest, which will now make the dungeons appear on the world map. I really like this part. Lutz makes perfect sense out of the original party to be the one hidden away to help out the current party. Imagine all the build up and it was Odin, the guy who was stupid enough to give his only means of curing petrification to someone without the hands to use it on him. It wouldn't feel as special. Lutz bridges the first and second games better than any returning planets or Rolf's dream. His presence properly cements that the first game's world, where magic still existed, and this one, where it doesn't exist anymore and everything is just techniques, where the few returning locations are unrecognisable, are one and the same. Rather than walk through the crevice again, I just cast Hinas to teleport back to Ruon and sell off some old equipment. I walk back to Arkbar and get heading west to the newly revealed dungeon. It's not very far before I reach Menno Bay. On this first floor I go all the way north through this doorway and take the stairs to the left to floor 2. I go south through another doorway, then I hug the eastern wall going all the way south, then northwest to the first chest of this place. I then go back to floor 1 the way I came. I then go east to take the right set of stairs back to floor 2. Like the first time I was on this floor, I hug a wall all the way south to a corner, then I go east until I find the first doorway in here and take the stairs in there going up to floor 3. I grab the second chest to the west and go back to floor 2 the way I came. I leave the doorway and go all the way to the northeast corner, then south into another room. I keep going south, walking around these statues, and then west and north to some stairs leading back down to floor 1. Here I can grab my first chest and go back the way I came. I finally take the middle set of stairs at the north end of the first floor to the second. I go north and then west to the corner. I go south and into the second doorway I reach. Inside I then go north to some stairs back to floor 3. I go east and north all the way around the edge of the floor, then south until I reach an opening that lets me go north and up to floor 4. I take the eastern path south to the outside of this maze and take it west, north, west, south, west and south again to some stairs back to floor 3. This lets me grab the 4th and final chest here, letting me leave and go for the next dungeon. I get a mammoth variant, the Alatusk, on the first floor. My next fight is against an entirely new type, the Dark Side. And the next fight has 2 new enemies, both new types, Wrestler and Mistcape. Killing them gets Anna to level 23. The first chest is a Storm Gear. My next fight gets me a stronger wrestler, the Sackhoff. The second chest is a Colour Scarf. Rolf dies on my 3rd visit to floor 2, but I keep going for a bit. Rudolph reaches level 23 and Amy reaches level 20 from the same fight. The 3rd chest contains the Near Crown, the strongest piece of headgear for women. It goes on Amy since she has lower defense than Anna. I then leave to heal. My first fight on my next visit to floor 3 has me face a new Mistcape variant, the Illusionist, and a new enemy type, the Glowsword. The fight after adds another Mistcape variant, the Imagiong, along with the MX Dragon, whatever the MX stands for. My next fight against them gets Anna and Rudolph killed. Rolf reaches level 24 from surviving that fight and learns Nazan, a Zan upgrade that damages all enemies, so it's back out to heal again. Since I had so much trouble with those enemies, I decided to hang around the entrance and grind for a bit. Amy reaches level 21 and Anna reaches level 24 in the same fight. 5 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 24. Just a minute later, Rolf reaches level 25. Now everyone's gained a level, I give it another go. While retracing my steps, Amy reaches level 22, but then Rolf gets killed and while trying to walk out, the party refuses to escape and also gets killed. Good thing I saved before trying again. This is something I hate in older RPGs, an escape command that only works about 10% of the time. So it's back to grinding, where Amy reaches level 22 once again. A few minutes later, Anna reaches level 25. 5 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 25. 2 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 26. The next fight has Amy reach level 23. Time to try again. Then Rolf dies again fighting some Dark Sides, but at this point I can at least get out. It gets close though, trying to deal with the game's escape rate leaves Amy the only survivor. That's the thing, enemies in Deseris's dungeons either have some insane critical hit rate or the damage range on their attacks is really wide. Back on floor 3 I get a Dark Side variant, Mr. Death, but at least it's not free, stopping Rolf from going from full hell to dead in one turn. On floor 4 I fight my next wrestler variant, the Meso Man. Anna reaches level 26 from killing them. I also get my next Dark Side variant, the Shadow. Although I don't realise it's new and fast forward through it. That mistake ends up biting me, as everyone dies but Anna, who survives with only 2 HP. At this point there's only one thing to do, abuse the Visiphone and save every few steps, so when I inevitably get killed, I don't lose much. I only die once before I manage to brute force my way to the final chest for the Near Helmet, the strongest headgear for Rolf and Kane. It will go to Rolf when he's revived. Of course I still have to brute force my way out of here, which takes a further 10 minutes, with fast forward. All of Menobe was an hour and a half I just compressed for you. That was by far my least favourite section of the entire game. At no point during that dungeon was I having fun. Since this was so hellish, I decided to hang around the entrance of Menobe to grind. It's the best place right now since Menobe is the closest dungeon to a town. 3 minutes of it gets Amy to level 24. She learns Sana, which increases every party member's agility, and Reva, which revives a dead party member. I could have done with that while going through this dungeon. A minute later, Rudolph reaches level 26. 3 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 27. 2 minutes later, Anna reaches level 27. 6 minutes later, Amy reaches level 25. 4 minutes after that, Rudolph reaches level 27. 3 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 28 and learns Gigra, a stronger version of Gra that targets all enemies. Another 2 minutes later, Anna reaches level 28. 5 minutes later, Amy reaches level 26. 4 minutes after that, Rudolph reaches level 28. 2 minutes after that, Rolf reaches level 29. 5 minutes later, Anna reaches level 29. 4 minutes later, Amy reaches level 27 and learns Gisar, the second tier of full party healing. I warp to Ryuon to get moving to the next dungeon. It's quite a distance northeast from Ryuon. On the way I get a new rabbit variant, the Rabbit Gut, also the Spectre, a Tracer variant. But after a long trek, I finally reach Garon. Now that's another familiar name. In the first game, the Garon Morgue was a dungeon on Deseris where I found the Laconian armour. This place has 16 floors, but many of them are small and identical. This first floor is massive. I start by going all the way west into the room in the southwest corner for my first chest, then back to the entrance and north through the doorway. I take the first east of the wall, then north, west and south into a room containing my second chest. I backtrack to the building's entrance and go north, west and west outside into this tree maze. I go through the middle first and then south into a different path that leads northwest a little, then southwest into the second room from this maze to some stairs going up to floor 2. I leave this central room to the east, then north, east some more, south and east to a room with my third chest. I then go back to where I started and take the stairs to the north up to floor 3. I go south and take the stairs to floor 4. I go north and take the stairs to floor 5. I go south and take the stairs to floor 6. I go north and take the stairs to floor 7. I go south and take the stairs to floor 8. I go west all the way, south all the way, east and north, taking the western side up to my 4th chest. Then I backtrack and take the stairs north of where I entered to floor 9. I go southeast into another room and make my way to the eastern wall, navigating the statues. Once at the end, I go north and west into another room to find my 5th chest. I then go back to where I entered from and take the stairs to the south up to floor 10. I then go north to floor 11. I go south to floor 12. I go north to floor 13. I go south to floor 14. I go north to floor 15. I then go south to floor 16. Here I just go north around the statues to the 6th and final chest, after which I'm done here. The first chest is a Laconin niche. The second is an amber robe. As I get close to the tree maze, Rudolph reaches level 29. The third chest contains a crystal chest. A couple fights after this, Rolf reaches level 30 and learns Rever, so now I have at least 2 people who can revive. On floor 8 I get a new enemy type, the Firefall. That's not even a monster, I'm just physically attacking fire now. The 4th chest is the Near Cape, the best cape in the game. I let Anna have it. On floor 9, Anna reaches level 30. The 5th chest is a crystal cape, right after getting the much better Near Cape. The final chest in here is the Ney armour, the best armour to give to Rudolph. That's half of the Ney items collected so far. That was nice and simple, much more bearable than Menobe. I leave and walk to Zosa to walk to the next dungeon. From the Skure exit that leads to Zosa, I go north, take the first west and go north again to reach Ikuto. As punishment for Garon being so much simpler, this dungeon goes back to being a prick. This one is based entirely around dropping down pits. I probably should hate this one more than Menobe, but I didn't get as pissed off here. I drop down the middle pit to the basement, then down the middle pit again to the second basement. I grab the chest I dropped near and take the pit just north of it to the third basement. I go west, south and west all the way to my second chest, then I cast Hinas to leave and start again. Back on the first floor I take the western pit to the basement. I go south and take the pit against the wall to the second basement. I go all the way west and then north into a pit into the third basement. Then it's the pit southwest of where I drop to the 4th basement. I navigate around the statues going south until I reach my third chest. Then I Hinas out and start again. On the first floor I take the eastern pit to the basement. I walk south a little to take the pit below me to the second basement. Of the 3 pits here I take the western one to the third basement. I then go west down to the 4th basement. I go south and follow the winding path east and north to my 4th chest. Hinas and start again. 4th journey through, I take the middle pit in the first floor and then the western pit in the basement. I take 2 steps west down to the third basement. I go east, north and west past the pit and taking the second one to the 4th basement. From where I land, I go directly north to a pit to the 5th basement. Down here I grab my 5th chest and Hinas out. Last time going through here, I take the western pit on the first floor again, then through the pit directly south of where I landed. 3 pits to choose from and I take the western one down to the third basement. I go all the way west and then north down a pit to the 4th basement. I go all the way north to the northwest corner, then all the way east to the northeast corner, then south to 3 pits. I take the middle one. I then go all the way south for the 6th and final chest. The first chest is a Laconian dagger. On the first visit to the third basement I get my next dragon, the Fire Dragon. The second chest is a plasma cannon. On my first visit to the 4th basement, Amy reaches level 28. The third chest is a Laconian mace. The 4th chest is a fire staff. The 5th chest is the Ney shot, the best gun in the game, so it goes to Rudolph. During my final run through the 4th basement, Rudolph reaches level 30, but the party gets wiped because of the dickhead escape constantly failing. Next time I make it down to the 5th basement again. On here is a new glowsword variant, the Desrona. The final chest contains the Ney Slasher, Anna's best weapon. Just 1 more dungeon and 2 pieces of Ney equipment to find. But first, another grind at Menobe. It takes 3 minutes for Rolf to reach level 31. 5 minutes later, Amy reaches level 29 and Anna reaches level 31 in the same fight. 10 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 31. 3 minutes after that, Rolf reaches level 32. 4 minutes later, Amy reaches level 30 and learns Nassar, which fully heals the entire party. A minute and a half later, Anna reaches level 32 and learns Zan, which is her final technique. 9 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 32. 3 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 33. I decide that's enough and get going for the next dungeon. The problem is that it isn't near any towns. It's reached through a 4th exit from Skure to an area with no towns, meaning if I want to leave and heal, I also have to trek through Skure again. So from the spaceship at Skure, I take the first west, then south and take the second west to a chute going to the 2nd floor. I go south and take another chute down to the 3rd floor. I go north and west to a chute back up to the second floor, going south halfway for my first chest. I go east and south to the final chest in Skure, then backtrack and go north back out to the surface. The first chest is 18,000 Meseta. The final chest in Skure is another 12,000 Meseta. Back on the surface, I just go south and east around the scar to reach Naval. From the southwest corner I start in, I go north until I can enter the building and take the stairs in the northwest corner to floor 2. I then follow the path around south and east to the stairs to floor 3. I then follow the path north and west to the stairs to floor 4, and once again I follow the path south and east to floor 5. This floor has a huge pit in the middle, and where I drop from determines where I land. So from the southern bridge, I walk off to the east and drop back down to floor 4. I drop off in the same direction to floor 3, and once again to floor 2. This drops me on the platform with my first chest. I drop down the pit again and work myself back up the way I came. Second time, I get onto the eastern bridge and walk off to the south. Then south into the pit again, then south once more to 3 more chests on floor 2 before I drop back down to the first floor. This time I take the stairs in the southeast corner to the other side of floor 2. I follow the path north and west to floor 3, then it's south and east to floor 4, then north and west again to floor 5. I get on the northern bridge and drop off to the east, then drop off to the west, then drop off to the east to floor 2 where I can grab my 5th chest, drop back down to floor 1 and climb all the way back up for a 4th time. Back on floor 5 I get on the western bridge and drop off to the north, then to the north again, and once more back to floor 2 where I can grab the last 2 chests and be done with this place. On my first run through floor 3 I get another new dragon, the Archdragon. On the 4th floor I meet my first Cape one. The first chest is the strongest shield in the game, the Ne Emil. It can only be worn by Anna and Cher, and I'm not sacrificing one of Anna's weapons for it. On my way up the second time I get a new Cape 1 variant, the Wizard. My second visit to floor 5 gets Amy to level 31. Also another Cape 1 variant I fast forwarded through, not realising it was new, the Fiend. But then the party are killed by a team of Mr. Death and Archdragon while I'm trying to escape. I've died more from trying to escape than I have from actually fighting. This was the point where I was starting to feel fatigued with the game, and there was already a month between the gameplay for last episode and this one. Then when I get back up to floor 5, the same pair of enemies kill me again for the same reason. I was not happy. You'll probably catch me using fast forward more often now, I was so fed up. On my next attempt, Anna reaches level 33. My second through 4th chests are a Mirror ML, a Laconian ML, and green sleeves. My 5th chest gets me the Ne Shield. Only Hugh and Kane can equip this. The last 2 chests in here are a Trimate and Truth sleeves. That's this place done, and that was tedious as hell, having to repeat the climb an extra 3 times, 5 when you count my game overs. Now I have all the Ne items, it's time to return to Lutz. Lutz recognises Rolf as truly a descendant of Alice and trusts him with his story. After the Dark Force was killed by Alice and her team, there was peace for a while. Then the Mother Brain just showed up and started providing the people of the Algol system with so many new things, they got confused and no longer knew what they needed and began to fight over the things the Mother Brain created, thinking they couldn't live without it. Lutz thinks that the Mother Brain itself is a trap, to deliberately weaken the people of the Algol system and lead to its destruction. He gives me the final Ne item, the Ne Sword, the strongest sword in the game for Rolf. Also, all the way through this scene the music froze on the first note of the track Power. It's apparently a common glitch and it sounds awful, but it's easily fixed. Talking to Lutz again will give me the option to be transferred to the final dungeon, the spaceship Noah, where the Mother Brain is kept. There's no exit to this place, so if I want to leave I have to use the Ne Sword as an item and it will take me back to the Esper Mansion. This place's name is the most likely reason Lutz went back to his Japanese name. I get straight to grinding first. I get a new Firefall variant here, the King Lava. Killing it gets Rudolph to level 33. When you leave using the Ne Sword, saying no to Lutz when he asks if you want to go to Noah will have him fully heal you for free. You can't revive though, you'll have to do that yourself. After a few fights, Rolf reaches level 34. 4 minutes later, Amy reaches level 32. Another 5 minutes later, Anna reaches level 34. 8 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 34. 6 minutes later, Rolf reaches level 35 and learns his most powerful spell, Megid. This technique drains half of all party members' HP and delivers it across all enemies, so when used on a single enemy, it deals a ton. 2 minutes later, Amy reaches level 33. 11 minutes later, Anna reaches level 35. 9 minutes later, Rudolph reaches level 35. 6 minutes after that, Rolf reaches level 36. A minute and a half later, Amy reaches level 34. At this point I decide to clear out the dungeon except for the final boss before I get to my final grind. I go east and north to some stairs to the second floor. I then go west and back to floor 1. I go west, north, east, north and west and back to floor 2. Then it's north back to floor 1, then west and south back up to floor 2. I go all the way north, then all the way east to the stairs back to floor 1. I go north little and back up to floor 2, north, west and south back to floor 1, then north back to floor 2, then north back to floor 1. I go south, west and then north all the way, back up to floor 2. I go west and south all the way, back down to floor 1. I then go west and northeast to the final chest in the game. Absolutely nothing happens on the way to that chest. When I inspect it, Rolf feels an incredible power, the screen goes black, someone laughs and declares it's Pandora's box, a gift from another world to the Algol system. It's the Dark Force once again. The Dark Force has 2560 HP, having the highest HP of any enemy in the game. Add to that a massive 320 attack stat, almost 100 more than the final boss, and he's pretty strong. And he takes up the top of the screen so I can't even see the damage I'm doing to him. I set Rolf to use a single Megid for huge damage and then quickly heal everyone with one of the star mists I've been saving. After that I have him set to use Nathoi. Anna and Rudolph attack while Amy ends up not able to do much. His first attack on the entire party after that first Megid was close, as it reduced Anna to 11 HP and Amy to just 1. Dark Force can inflict the evil status on a party member, which removes them from your control. They'll even steal items from their inventory, which can be very worrying if they take something rare like a star mist. But there's a random chance of the Nae Sword freeing any evil party members. Amy is turned evil and then later killed. I can't risk reviving her for her to die again, so I just take on the rest of Dark Force's health with just the other 3. And I managed to win on my first try. Well, that was weird and no one has anything to say about it. Before I move on and finish the game, I now have my final grind. This game caps at level 50, so as part of 100% I'm getting all 7 party members to that level. This is difficult because with a full party, at most I get around 4900 XP, and once you hit the level 40s, you need hundreds of thousands of XP per character per level. So there's a good chance going from level 40 to level 50 requires around 4 to 6 million XP, so you can imagine this takes a while. Even with fast forward, this took days. I will be doing a lot of skimming from now on. I didn't record all the grinding, as tens of hours of nothing happening would take up too much space on my computer. It took 2 days of fast forward grinding to get Rolf to level 50. Off screen he learned Nagra at level 40, the strongest all targeting technique aside from Megid. As you can see, it took 6,900,000 XP from level 1 to level 50. 2 hours later, Anna reaches level 50. She needed 7,500,000 XP total. I return to Paseo to swap her out for Kain. Swapping party members at this point is a nightmare, as every swap required a backtrack through the giant crevice, a trip through Skure, and another trip back to the mountain through the crevice. I set Kain up with Storm Gear, a Laconian Mace, a Laconinish, and Garda Boots to try and keep him alive longer while he's still level 17. An hour later, Rudolph reaches level 50. In the time it took him to gain 1 level, Kain gained 7. I return to Paseo and swap him out for Cher. Cher is even worse off than Kain when he rejoined, she's only at level 10. Taking her to Dezeris, I outfit her with a wind scarf, laser knife, Nae ML, crystal cape and shoon boots, but she's still gonna die a lot early on. Half a day later, Amy reaches level 50. In the time it took her to gain a single level, Cher gained 21. Off screen she learned Grat at level 40 and Gigrat at level 48. I return to Paseo to swap her out for Hugh. No Nae equipment left over for Hugh, so he gets a Laconimet, Laconian Mace, ceramic chest and Garda Boots. Grinding without Amy is a nightmare, as she takes the only anti, now that Nae's dead and Nara's tech's in the game with her. This leaves Rolf as the main healer who can heal 60 HP at most with Girez. Poison is the biggest problem. I can leave one party member poisoned for a bit, as Luca's heal will still restore their HP, but if too many get poisoned or Rolf does, it's a walk back to Akaba to cure them and another trek through a giant crevice. I could buy antidotes, but I don't have much inventory space and they'd run out pretty quick anyway. 3 days of brain-melting tedium later, Cher reaches level 51st, despite Kain having a 14 level head start on her. She learns Rez at level 12, Gifoy at level 15, Zan at level 18, Grat at level 24, Gizan at level 27, Girez at level 30, Nazan at level 33, Gigra at level 36, and Nagra at level 45. I return to Paseo and kick her out to bring Amy back so I have some better healing. I can leave her dead so that Hugh and Kain get more XP from the fights, and just have Rolf revive her when I need to use Anti to heal poison. 4 hours later, Kain reaches level 50. At level 21 he learns Gisag, which is a stronger Sag. At level 26 he learns Brose, which instant kills a single machine. At level 28 he learns the strongest version of Sag, Nazag, and his final technique is Gizan at level 31. I return to Paseo to swap out Kain for Rudolph, so that enemies die faster. As soon as Kain and Cher are replaced with Rudolph and a dead Amy, things speed up far more and the 920,000 XP that Hugh needs just to go from level 49 to level 50 still takes a couple hours, but nowhere near as long as it took those two. At level 15 he learns Vol, which instant kills a single bio monster. He learns Zan at level 18, Savol at level 24, which damages a group of enemies, Gra at level 27, Girez at level 30, Gigra at level 33, and Gizan at level 36. With Hugh done, I can kick out his useless ass to bring Anna back in. I should say that while I have maxed out money in other RPGs I've done, they were never an intentional thing, which is why this is the first one where I will not be doing that. A week of my life grinding and maxing everyone's levels only got me a quarter of the way to the 9,999,999 Meseta cap. I just can't dedicate another 3 weeks just to grinding money. I return to the spot I defeated Dark Force and continue on to the end. From where the chest was, I head north and east back to floor 2. I then go west, south, west and north to trigger the final battle. As I cross this final bridge, the Mother Brain reveals herself. Rolf and the party are overwhelmed by her presence, giving me one more chance to back away. But I don't, making the Mother Brain grin. She says that if she is damaged, the entire system will be thrown into a panic, as the system is now dependent on her. She says that it will lead to them dying miserably, but that's not going to talk us out of it. My first battle with the Mother Brain ends in failure, as I accidentally let Rolf cast Megid twice, leaving the party without the health to survive and heal. So let's see my second successful attempt. The Mother Brain has 2,450 HP, 228 attack and 128 defense. I set Rolf to Megid only once and follow up with Constant Nathoi. Amy heals whenever she can but otherwise attacks with a Snow Crown, while Rudolph and Anna throw out regular attacks. Unlike the final boss of the first game, you can't see how much damage you're doing. If I have just one complaint with this fight, it's that there's no dedicated final boss theme, it just uses a regular boss theme. Both Lassic and the Dark Force each got their own unique boss themes in the first game, but it's a minor thing I'm only bringing up to drag out the boss battle footage so it doesn't play at light speed. This time I'm never in any danger, and it's Rudolph who gets the last hit in, gunning the Mother Brain down. Rolf and the party are amazed at what they'd accomplished. The Algol system is free from the Mother Brain's control, the Biosystems Lab and Climatrol are now forever useless, freeing the people from her, but ensuring a difficult life lies ahead. Both the party are hopeful for the future and plan to return to Motavia, but Lutz warns Rolf that there is still somebody on this ship. They walk past where the Mother Brain used to stand and see a massive group of robed people. They walk through the crowd to the leader. He talks to Rolf as if he is above him and asks if Rolf thinks they are his enemies. They do hate him for destroying the Mother Brain that they created. They are not from the Algol system, but from Earth. They are the last surviving humans from Earth, which has since been destroyed. They were unable to suppress the evil within themselves and continue to abuse nature until the Earth released its death rattle. With their little remaining time, they built this spaceship and escaped, finding the Algol system. They installed the Mother Brain so they could take control of the planets for themselves by weakening their people and making them easier to invade. They are the ones who ordered Palmer's destruction. Lutz tries to help the party by sending over the remaining 3, but the Earthmen say it's only a matter of time before the Algol system is destroyed and hundreds of them swarm the party at once. And so the game ends on an image of each character fighting back and getting their own words in after letting that arsehole do all the talking. I gotta say, this is actually pretty cool. Aside from Palmer's destruction, the story didn't do much for me in the first 2 episodes, but in this one they really ramped it up with what little they could squeeze in. The last line of the game is, "I wonder what the people will see in their final days." So that was Phantasy Star 2. This is seen as one of the Mega Drive's biggest classics, and while I did like it to an extent, there was a lot of stuff dragging the game down for me. The slow speed, the amount of grinding, the spiteful dungeon design, and the first 2/3 of the game's story just didn't do it for me. I feel like this game had a lot of grand ideas for its story, and I can see traces of it, but it didn't have the space for a lot of it. Either that or a lot was lost in localization, which is possible. But as I said, from Palmer's destruction to the end I enjoyed the story, but that's also bogged down by some of the most tedious gameplay across the entire game. The best way I can describe this game is, a game I liked despite its best attempts to make me hate it. This will probably be around the lower middle of my ranking, I haven't settled on the exact placement yet. I know a lot of people love this game, but for me, I still think the first Phantasy Star in its simplicity was more enjoyable. One last note before I go to the ranking, I've changed around my checklist for this series. Every chapter of the Phantasy Star 2 text adventures was its own entry, I've now condensed them into one like they should have been. I've also added the PS2 remakes of the first 2 games. When it comes to the MMOs, Online, Universe and Online 2, I've only included the base games. MMOs are my biggest blind spot, so I don't know what counts as a separate game and what's an expansion. I know Online Episode 3 is its own game, but is Ambitions of the Illuminus its own game separate from Universe, or is it an expansion? I need a Phantasy Star expert to let me know that.